Rules of the Senate, excerpted from the Rules of Procedure of the 2023 regular session. This video will give an overview of each of the rules to be followed during the 2023 regular session of the State Senate. The full set of rules may be found on the website of the Kentucky General Assembly. Introduction. Rule 1. Hours of meeting. The Senate shall meet at the call of the members. Rule 2. Quorum. A majority of the senators elected to the Senate shall constitute a quorum. Rule 3. Call of the Senate. Upon a call of the Senate, the clerk shall call the roll, then call the absentees again.
Order of business. Rule 4. Order of business. The order of business shall be as follows. 1. Invocation. 2. Pledge of allegiance. 3. Roll call and excuse of absent members. 4. Approval of the journal. 5. Second reading of bills. 6. Report of committees. 7. First reading of bills. 8. Introduction of guests, memorial resolutions, motions, and citations. 9. Introduction of new bills and resolutions. 10. Orders of the day. 11. Meetings of the Committee on Committees and Rules Committee. 12. Report of committees. 13. Motions, petitions, communications, and announcements. 14. Introduction of floor amendments. 15. Introduction of new bills and resolutions. 16. Adjournment. You can see these in action by viewing the video on a sample legislative day in the Senate. Rule 5. Unfinished business. Unfinished business which was being considered upon adjournment shall have precedence in the class of business to which it properly belongs upon the next succeeding legislative day.
Motions. Rule 6. Reading of motions. When a motion has been made and seconded, it shall be stated by the President, or, being in written form, it shall be read by the clerk before debate, amendment or motion concerning it shall be in order. Rule 7. Withdrawal of motions. Every oral motion after it has been stated by the President, and every written motion, bill, resolution or other paper, after it has been read by the clerk, shall be the property and in the possession of the Senate and shall not be withdrawn without consent of the Senate. Rule 8. Order of questions. All questions, whether in committee of the whole or in the Senate, when not a privileged question, shall be propounded in the order in which they were moved, except that in filling blanks the smallest sum and the most remote date shall be put first. Rule 9. Precedence of motions. When a question is under consideration, no motion shall be in order except 1. To call the Senate when there is no quorum present. 2. To fix the time to which the Senate shall adjourn. 3. To adjourn. 4. To take recess. 5. To lay on the table. 6. For the previous question. 7. To limit or extend limits of debate. 8. To postpone to a fixed time. 9. To lay on the clerk's desk. 10. To refer or commit. 11. To amend. 12. To postpone indefinitely.
Rule 10. Motion to adjourn. A motion to adjourn, to take a recess, or a motion to adjourn to a time certain, shall always be in order, except when a senator is speaking, while a vote is being taken, or when the Committee on Committees is reporting, subject, however, to the limitations set out in Rule 9. Rule 11. Motion to table. The adoption of the motion to table, under these rules, defeats the subject matter under consideration. Rule 12. Previous question. When the previous question has been ordered, a vote shall be taken immediately upon the pending measure and any pending amendments as are in order. Rule 13. Motion to set the limits of debate. A motion to extend a time limit for debate on a measure beyond that permitted under Rule 12 shall be in order unless the previous question shall have been ordered on the measure. Rule 14. Motion to reconsider. A motion to reconsider a vote shall not be in order unless made by a senator who voted upon the prevailing side of the question, nor shall that motion be in order unless made within 2 legislative days in which the Senate is in session next after the day the vote was taken. However, the motion to reconsider when coupled with the additional motion to lay that motion upon the table may be made by any senator.
Rule 15. Motion to lay on clerk's desk. The effect of the adoption of a motion to lay on the clerk's desk under these rules is to place in charge of the clerk the pending question and everything adhering to it. Rule 16. Motion to strike out enacting clause. A motion to amend by striking out the enacting words of a bill or resolution shall have precedence over a motion to amend, and, if adopted, shall have the same effect as though the bill or resolution were regularly voted upon and rejected. Rule 17. Motion to separate part of a measure. A motion to commit, recommit, or postpone a part of a measure so as to separate that part of the measure from the remainder shall not be in order. Rule 18. Postponement of measures. When a measure shall have been postponed indefinitely, it shall not be in order again during the session. Rule 19. Reading of pending papers. Any pending bill, resolution, motion, or report shall be read by the clerk upon the demand of any senator, but it shall not again be read on the same day unless so ordered by the Senate. Rule 20. Nominations. In all elections, a previous nomination shall be made.
Rule 21. Attendance of members. No senator shall be absent from a session of the Senate without leave from the Senate. Rule 22. Decorum of members. No senator shall designate another senator by name. Rule 23. Call to order. If any senator, in speech or otherwise, transgresses the rules of order or decorum, the senator shall immediately be called to order by the chair and shall be seated. Rule 24. Debate. No senator may speak more than once to the same subject until all senators desiring to be heard have spoken, but nothing in this rule shall do away with the previous question if then in effect, nor permit debate on an undebatable motion. Rule 25. Members shall vote at seats. A senator shall vote only when at the senator's seat or visibly approaching it.
Officers and employees. Rule 26. President. On the first day of the regular session in an odd-numbered year, or at any time there is a vacancy in the office of President, immediately following the adoption of the rules, the President of the Senate shall take the chair to receive nominations from the floor and to preside over the election of the President. Rule 27. Appeal from decision of chair. The President, while presiding, may speak to points of order in preference to senators. Rule 28. President pro tempore. The Senate shall elect a President pro tem, who shall perform the duties of the President when the President is absent from the Senate, or when empowered by the President to perform the duties of the Chair. Rule 29. Duties of Clerk. The clerk shall have charge and supervision of all the clerical business of the Senate. Rule 30. Journal of Proceedings. The clerk shall cause to be kept the journal of the proceedings of the Senate.
Rule 31. Custody of papers. The clerk shall have custody of all records, papers, and bills of the Senate and shall not allow them to be taken out of the clerk's possession without the leave of the Senate, unless to be delivered to the chairman of a committee to which they have been referred or to the Legislative Research Commission, as specified in these rules, and then the clerk shall take a proper receipt therefor. Rule 32. Accounts of expenditures. The Legislative Research Commission shall keep the accounts for pay and mileage of members, officers, and attachés, and for printing and other contingent expenses of the House and Senate. Rule 33. Printing of Senate papers. The Legislative Research Commission shall have supervision and charge of all printing done for the Senate as certified by the clerk, and the public printer shall print only those documents and other matters as the Legislative Research Commission authorizes. Rule 34. Duties of the Sergeant-at-Arms. It shall be the duty of the Sergeant-at-Arms and doorkeeper to exclude or remove all persons not entitled to the floor of the Senate. Rule 35. Appointment and conduct of constitutional employees. The constitutional employees of the Senate shall be appointed by election during the regular sessions of the General Assembly and shall serve 1-year terms or until the election of their successors. Rule 36. Other employees. All other professional, clerical, and other employees required by the Senate or any of its committees shall, as authorized by the Committee on Committees, be provided by the Legislative Research Commission.
Committees. Rule 37. Committee on Committees. There shall be a committee on committees composed of the President pro tem, the Majority Floor Leader, the Majority Caucus Chairman, the Majority Whip, the Minority Floor Leader, the Minority Caucus Chairman, and the Minority Whip of the Senate. Rule 38. Standing Committees. The following shall be the standing committees of the Senate. 1. Agriculture. 2. Appropriations and Revenue. 3. Banking and Insurance. 4. Economic Development, Tourism, and Labor. 5. Education. 6. Families and Children. 7. Health Services. 8. Judiciary. 9. Licensing and Occupations. 10. Natural Resources and Energy. 11. State and Local Government. 12. Transportation. 13. Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection. Rule 39. Appointment of Committees. The Committee on Committees shall appoint the Chairman, Vice Chairman, and the members of all standing and special committees and shall fill any vacancies thereon. Rule 40. Jurisdiction of Standing Committees. The Committee on Committees shall refer each bill to the committee with control over the subject matter. Rule 41. Rules Committee. There shall be a Rules Committee composed of the same membership as the Committee on Committees.
Rule 42. Standing Subcommittees. The Committee on Appropriations and Revenue shall be divided into the following 5 standing subcommittees of at least 3 members each. 1. Subcommittee on Economic Development and Tourism, Natural Resources and Environmental Protection. 2. Subcommittee on Education. 3. Subcommittee on General Government, Finance, and Public Protection. 4. Subcommittee on Health and Family Services. 5. Subcommittee on Justice and Judiciary. Rule 43. Enrollment Committee. The Committee on Committees shall appoint an enrollment committee of not more than 5 members. Rule 44. Committee on Conference, Committee on Free Conference. When a Senate bill has been amended in the House and the Senate refuses to concur in that amendment, or when a House bill has been amended in the Senate and the House refuses to concur in that amendment, and when neither will recede from such action, the Committee on Committees shall appoint a Committee on Conference, of 3 members, to meet a like committee from the House. Rule 44A. Majority and Minority Caucuses. The majority and minority caucuses of the Senate shall be committees, other than standing committees, of the Senate and General Assembly. Rule 44B. Open meetings of committees. The meetings of the committees of the Senate, other than the majority and minority caucuses, shall be open to the public.
Rule 45. Meetings of committees. No committee except the Committee on Committees, the Committee on Enrollment, and a Committee on Conference between the House and Senate shall sit while the Senate is in session, unless by consent of the Senate. Rule 46. Committee Reports. Every committee should report the disposition of every bill and resolution referred to it as promptly as possible. Rule 47. Majority and Minority Reports. It shall require a majority of the committee membership to report a bill or resolution. Rule 48. Failure to report. Whenever a committee fails or refuses to report a bill submitted to it, any member may, upon filing with the clerk a written petition to determine if the committee has held the bill for an unreasonable time, call the petition for consideration on the next succeeding legislative day after its filing. Rule 49. Procedure in Committee. The rules of procedure in the Senate shall be observed in committee insofar as the same are applicable.
Bills and Resolutions. Rule 50. Form of bills. All bills introduced shall be printed on the computerized bill preparation system of the Legislative Research Commission, and none otherwise prepared shall be accepted for introduction. Rule 51. Introduction of bills. Bills and resolutions may be filed with the clerk any time the clerk's office is open. Bills and resolutions that have been filed with the clerk shall be introduced in the regular order of business. Rule 52. Statutory fiscal impact statements. The staff of the Legislative Research Commission shall analyze and prepare a fiscal statement for any bill which, if enacted, would fiscally affect local governments in a significant manner through the imposition of a local mandate, constitute a mandated health benefit, change the financial liability of any public retirement system administered by an agency of state government, or fiscally affect state or local correction services in a significant manner, including any bill which would modify, or create a criminal penalty or otherwise affect the population of a correctional system or facility. Rule 52A. Member-requested fiscal notes. A sponsor of a bill which, if enacted, would affect the revenues or expenditures of the Commonwealth generally, may at any time by request cause the staff of the Legislative Research Commission to analyze and prepare a fiscal note for the measure describing such impacts on revenues or expenditures.
Rule 53. Member-requested fiscal notes and statutory fiscal impact statements for amendments. Any member proposing an amendment from the floor for a measure to which a fiscal note or fiscal statement has been attached shall cause an amended fiscal note or fiscal statement, as appropriate, to be prepared and attached to the amendment. Rule 54. Reference of bills. The Committee on Committees shall refer all bills to the proper standing committee not later than the 5th day in which the Senate is in session after the date of introduction. Rule 55. Printing of bills. Upon receipt of a bill, the Legislative Research Commission shall examine the form of the bill, to ensure that it is free from errors of form or typography and has been assigned the proper KRS section or chapter numbers. Rule 56. Readings of bills. If a bill is reported without expression of opinion, a vote may then be taken on whether it shall be read at length and be placed on the calendar, if a majority of the members elected to the Senate shall concur therein. Rule 57. Calendar, consent calendar. 1. In order to reduce the time required for final passage of bills posted in the orders of the day, a consent procedure for the consideration of uncontested bills shall be established and designated as follows. A. The clerk shall keep a regular calendar and a consent calendar for each legislative day, showing the bills receiving their second reading. B. The clerk shall also keep a regular orders and a consent orders, showing bills posted for final passage by the Rules Committee. 2. Bills reported by a standing committee with a regular should pass or should pass with committee amendment/substitute attached recommendation shall be shown in the regular calendar on the day on which they are entitled to a second reading. 3. A standing committee may, at the time of favorably reporting any Senate or House bill, recommend that it be placed in the consent calendar, provided a. The primary sponsor has so requested, when it is a Senate bill, and b. The bill receives a should pass or should pass with committee amendment/substitute attached recommendation from the committee by a unanimous vote of the members present. 4. A certificate shall be attached to each bill recommended for the consent calendar, showing the request of the sponsor of any Senate bill and the unanimous recommendation of the members present, signed by the chairman. 5. After a sufficient number of bills have accumulated in the consent calendar, the Rules Committee may post any or all of the bills to the consent orders for a day certain. On that day certain, the consent orders shall be called before the regular orders. 6. Upon the call of the consent orders, each bill in those orders shall be given a third reading by title only. The President shall then allow a reasonable time for questions from the floor and any explanation necessary by the sponsor or committee chairman. Consent order bills may not be amended from the floor. 7. The clerk shall attach a roll call to each bill in the consent calendar, and any member may at any time prior to passage of the consent orders record with the clerk a nay or pass vote on any bill within the consent calendar or consent orders. 8. Upon the call for the question on the consent orders, the President shall instruct the clerk to announce the nay and pass votes previously filed on each bill in the consent orders. All other members present in the chamber on the day and at the time the consent orders are called shall be considered as having voted aye, and the roll call attached to each bill shall so reflect as the final vote. 9. Upon the written petition of any 5 members objecting to the placement or retention of any bill in the consent calendar or consent orders, that bill shall cease to be so considered and shall be placed in the regular calendar or regular orders, as provided in these rules.
Rule 58. Orders of the Day. When a bill has had its second reading, it shall be referred to the Rules Committee to be placed in the orders of the day, or be recommitted, and when next reached in the Senate it shall be ready for recommitment, or to be read a third time and placed upon its passage, and the President shall so announce to the Senate. Rule 59. Concurrence in amendments and reports of conference committees, receding from amendments, final passage. When a Senate bill and message have been received from the House requesting concurrence in an amendment or amendments adopted thereby, or when a report of a conference committee or a veto message is received, the bill and message or report so received shall be referred to the Rules Committee for posting to the orders of the day, or referral of a bill for concurrence to a standing committee as provided in Rule 54. Rule 60. Amendments to bills. All amendments offered by a committee or by an individual senator shall be typewritten on forms with a proper heading, furnished by the Legislative Research Commission. Rule 61. Engrossment of bills. Every Senate bill and joint resolution, together with the amendments thereto, which has been passed by the Senate and not subject to further amendment or motion, shall be engrossed by the clerk. Rule 62. Enrollment of bills. All Senate bills and resolutions which have passed both the Senate and the House shall be delivered by the Senate clerk to the enrolling clerk, taking a receipt therefor. Rule 63. Signing of bills. The enrolling clerk of the Senate shall deliver the original and enrolled copies of Senate bills and resolutions signed by the President or the President pro tem to the Chairman of the Enrollment Committee of the House for presentation to the Speaker of the House for the Speaker's signature. Rule 64. Resolutions. Resolutions having the force and effect of law shall be treated and considered as bills in all respects under these rules. Rule 65. Legislative citations. For the purpose of extending the commendations, condolences or congratulations of the General Assembly to a particular person, or to recognize a particular event or occasion, there may be issued a legislative citation. Citations may not be used for procedural matters, matters of a controversial or partisan political nature, nor in place of resolutions memorializing the U.S. Congress, but only when appropriate to express the feeling of the Senate or of the General Assembly with reference to a person or event.
Voting. Rule 66. Roll call. Any member, with a second, may demand a roll call on any matter pending before the Senate. Rule 67. Pairing. All pairs announced in the Senate shall be entered on the journal. Rule 67A. Participation in committee by video conferencing. A member of the Senate shall be allowed to participate and vote via video conferencing in all matters before a Senate committee. Rule 68. Division of the Senate. If the President is in doubt as to the result of a viva voce, or a division is demanded, the Senate shall divide. Rule 69. Adjournment extended during roll call. When the roll is being called and taking a yea and nay vote, and the hour of adjournment arrives, the same shall stand extended until after the yea and nay vote has been completed and the result announced.
Privilege of the floor. Rule 70. Persons entitled to the floor. When the Senate is in session, including any time that the Senate has resolved itself into a committee of the whole, and 1 hour before and 1/2 hour after, no person shall be permitted upon the floor, except the present members of the General Assembly and all officers and employees of the Senate and members of the immediate family of senators. Rule 71. Restriction of lobbying and access to the Senate chambers and office areas. No person shall engage in lobbying for or against any measure while the Senate is in session, or in recess, in any of the corridors or passages or in any of the rooms in that part of the Capitol assigned to the use of the Senate, and no registered lobbyist shall enter that part of the Capitol while the Senate is in session, including any time the Senate has resolved itself into a committee of the whole. Rule 72. Restrictions. No article, booklet, pamphlet or any other printed matter, other than documents sent by a member identified on the face of the document or its attachments to any other member, shall be placed upon the chamber desk of any member unless the article, booklet, pamphlet or other printed matter is authorized by the Senate President's office and contains the signature of the author, or the party interested in the distribution thereof is clearly identified.
Senate confirmation. Rule 73. Requests for confirmation of executive appointments. When a communication is received by the Senate requesting its confirmation of an appointment of an officer or officers to membership on an executive agency body, the question of the confirmation shall be referred to the Committee on Committees for its consideration and action. Rules. Rule 74. Mason's Manual. In the absence of a specific rule of the Senate, the most recent edition of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure adopted by the National Conference of State Legislatures shall govern the proceedings, except that in all cases where general parliamentary law provides for a rule of 2/3, it shall mean in the Senate a majority of all the members elected to the Senate. Rule 75. Change of rules. The rules of the Senate, after their adoption, shall not be altered, changed, amended, suspended or interrupted, unless the same be done by a majority of the members elected to the Senate, notwithstanding any other rule of the Senate to the contrary. A constitutional majority of the Senate may suspend the rules at any time for any purpose.